I'll bet something like this has happened to you. I was driving between Page, Arizona and Kanab, Utah. It was late afternoon, golden light. The road was deserted. There were incredibly mushroom-shaped rocks all around me. There was some new age music on the radio. It was weird, but it was perfect. All those elements came together to create a brief moment in time that was truly magical. It didn't last long, but a few miles down the road, all those elements were still in place, except that the rocks had changed to the majestic vermilion cliffs of the Colorado Plateau, and the music had changed to Rhapsody in Blue, played by none other than Gershwin himself. Well, the next day I was scheduled to drive through Zion National Park, and I got ready for the grandmother of all magic moments. I put a Greek CD in. I figured Kirigant would be just the thing for Zion. I got through the park. Nothing happened. Nothing. I've decided that magic moments cannot be created. They just have to happen. The first time I became aware of this phenomenon, my wife and I were chaperoning a bunch of inland students on a whale watching trip in Boston. We were coming back to the school bus down to Boston Harbor. The sun had gone down. The skyline was highlighted in red. It was dead calm. There was a guy down there playing the saxophone. Well, my wife and I sat down and just took it in. And you know what? So did those students that just an hour before had stoked up on pizza and all kinds of caffeinated beverages. Another time we were in New Orleans, walked by the public bandstand. There was a high school band there from North Carolina playing jazz tunes. The band leader did something truly magical. He stopped them. He walked out in the audience and he got this street musician and brought him up on the stage. He had a battered old saxophone. He says, told the students, "This is Tyrone and he's going to join our band." And when Tyrone played his solo, those kids went nuts. And I guarantee when they have their 20-year reunion, that's the first thing they're going to talk about. So far, all my examples have involved music, but music isn't necessary for a magic moment. I was a volunteer crew member on a ship, a sailing vessel, an environmental ship called the Clearwater. We were going across Long Island Sound, dense fog. The captain called me and gave me an air horn, told me to stand up on the bow, and if I saw anything move, to honk. I tell you, I felt like the first mate on Henry Hudson's ship, the Half Moon. Magic moments can happen at work. One time I was asked to speak to a senior citizens group in Windsor, New York, on edible wild foods. Well, I was young at that time, and everybody knows that old people don't hear very well, and they don't pay attention, and I wasn't very thrilled about doing this, but it was my job, so I went. I showed up with my slides. Well, these people showed up with samples of wild foods that they had lived on during the Depression and during World War II. I felt about this big. I put my slides down, and I listened to them tell me what it's like to live on wild foods. And that was one of the highlights of my career. If you're lucky enough to be a grandparent, you can have magic moments all the time. I was snorkeling with my little granddaughter, 3 years old. She was sitting on top of a boogie board. I was swimming along, pushing her ahead of me. We swam over this great big green turtle. I'm watching the turtle, and I see this little hand reach down and pet the turtle. Every time I see my granddaughter, it gives me goosebumps. So magic moments can come at any time, and you don't need a stimulus package to do it. They don't last long, but they can end very abruptly. And this is what happened to Dave Robinson. He was a student at the Marine Command and Staff College. They were on a field trip to Gettysburg Battlefield to study small unit tactics. They were on top of Little Round Top, one of the most historic spots in North America. Early morning, they're looking out across the mist-filled valley, across the Devil's Den. Off in the distance, they heard musket fire. They heard cannons. Dave said it was the most surreal moment of his life. He later found out that they were filming a movie there. And there was this big Australian in the group, and they don't share our reverence for the Civil War battlefields. He says, boy, do you Yanks sure do know how to